Hello my lovely friends, it's Margaret and this is a reading vlog. So I've been struggling with a way that I liked to do small booktuber shoutouts because just sitting and talking about people, not my best quality. I can barely talk about myself. And then everyone started making all these videos where they're reading other booktubers' books. Books and Lala did the one, Can We Trust Booktuber? Allie from Hardback Horror did one where, Can We Trust Books and Lala? Chandler Ainsley did another one where I think she also did Books and Lala. Like she did a dedicated reading vlog, both of them reading books that Books and Lala had done. So I really like this idea of focused TBRs reading other people's favorite books. So I decided, why not do a small booktuber shoutout and combine it with that idea. So I decided maybe I'll make this a series on my channel where I go through, pick a couple of small booktubers, find out what their favorite books are, and then pick one book from each of them to read and see how our tastes align. I thought that would be really, really fun. I'm coming at you with 6 different booktubers, which means there will be 6 different books in this video. So the only other thing I want to mention is how I kind of went through and picked the books that I'm going to be reading. So I went to each person's channel and I looked for videos where they like said favorites or recommendations and tried to like piece together. Some of y'all, it was really hard to figure out what your favorite books are. So I went and I tried to find videos like that, and then I looked for videos on there that I had not read because I didn't want to like reread something that I already knew I liked. I wanted to have this be like fresh opinions on books that I have not read or have not read in a long time. And then number 2, it had to be a book that is already on some sort of TBR for the most part. There's like one exception to those 2 rules, and that's the first book that we're going to be getting to, and it's really short. Like I was looking for books that I already knew I wanted to read or books that I already knew I have on my physical TBR. I'm going to start this off with doing the 500 and under. I'm not sure how high I'm going to go because honestly, realistically, in the vast thing that is YouTube, sometimes even into the thousands, you're still a small creator. I mean, you've got it easier than me over here sitting at 388. You've got the algorithm is more in your favor, but still, like, in the grand scheme of things, most booktubers, I don't think there's a single booktuber that comes even close to the biggest YouTubers. Now, obviously, I'm not going to get to where they get into the hundreds of thousands because they don't need my help. So the first person I am going to be shouting out is Alexandra over at A Lovely Jaunt. As of the filming of this video, Alexandra is sitting at 474 subscribers. She has a channel that is very introspective, very literature-oriented. She's going through a series right now where she's breaking down the Iliad into its various parts. She did Wives and Daughters recently, which I'm waiting till I read Wives and Daughters to watch that. And I found that even if I haven't necessarily read the book, like the stuff that she says about the history and the context and how literature has evolved, I always find she has interesting things to say about books. I really admire the fact that her videos are always really well thought out and put together and like a whole level above what I would ever even attempt because I am messy and chaotic and I just throw things together. That's how I work, because otherwise the perfectionism gets me. So for Alexandra, I picked a book that I might have read. I'm not entirely sure if I have read it. I read it when I was like 13 or 14. It was a really long time ago, guys, but it also is one of my favorite series. I decided to read The Saddle Club, Book 1, Horse Crazy by Bonnie Bryant. If you watch my TBR, you know I was that girl in middle school. Never took a horseback riding lesson in my life up to that point, but I still was obsessed with horses. I watched Lord of the Rings. I was more interested in the horses than the guys. Like, I understand the hype now about Viggo Mortensen and Orlando Bloom. I get it now. I didn't get it then. I was just like, they're old. Which is hilarious considering that Orlando was like 18 when that film was filmed. There's so much about the series I had forgotten, but this is about Carol and Stevie, and there's this new girl that comes to the stable that they ride at. I don't remember all of the terms. It's been a long time, guys. This new girl, Lisa, comes to their stable and disrupts their friend group somehow. Like, I don't know. We'll see. I'm highly offended that they changed these covers. Like, what was wrong with the old covers? My friends, I mean, they're cringy and outdated, but this is not any better, okay? This is not any better. It is a short book. I don't imagine, let's see, it's 100 and, come back. It is 131 pages, so I don't think this will take me more than like maybe 2 nights to read. So I probably won't even check in until I've finished this book. But I'm sure I will have thoughts about it tonight. Checking in because I think I've gotten like 50 or so pages read last night, and then I was too tired to continue on. It's interesting thinking about this in retrospect because I'm pretty sure when I was reading it as a kid, I related more with Stevie, but like looking back, y'all, I'm more of a Lisa. Like, even as a kid, I was more of a Lisa than a Stevie. Like, yeah. Anyways, it's been interesting. There's a lot, like, it's funny, I'm like Gandalf in the Mines of Moria, going like, I have no memory of this place, but like, I know I should know it, but I don't, like, stuff is happening, and I'm like, I don't remember this. So I'm pretty sure I haven't read this. Veronica D'Angelo has come in and is being a little, she's just being the sweetest. She is not, and it's funny. It's your typical, like, she's your typical, like, mean girl, come in to try and be friends with the new girl, and the new girl's gonna figure out that, oh, she's horrible and not fun. These are written in the 80s, which I did not know when I read them, because one of the girls talks about her parents dating in the 60s, and I'm just like, wait, what? One of the things I've noticed with, like, younger readers' stuff, especially when you get below middle grade, is that there's a lot of telling. And it's very interesting to see how, depending on the age category, authors balance showing versus telling. Because obviously they have a much shorter book. I also feel like I probably should mention that this is not respective of Alexandra's reading tastes now. Probably. I mean, she says she still loves them, but I don't think she, like, sits down and regularly rereads them. She's much more into, like, classic literature and stuff like that from what I've seen on her channel. But the only other books that she mentioned were Redwall, and I read most of that, and Twilight, which I've also read, and am not interested in rereading right now. Just not. I will reread it eventually because I have a video idea at some point, but I wasn't going to reread that. Okay, so we are done with Horse Crazy. It took us way too long to finish considering how short it is, but there were a couple of days where I only read like maybe 10 pages and then I went to sleep because I was tired. I'm 90% sure that I have read this book because, like, there's one specific plot point that I remember. The rest of it I have no recollection of. I'm like, I don't remember this happening. I don't remember Stevie being this dumb. I really enjoyed it. I really like this kind of walk down my, like, memory lane, childhood, all of that jazz. So now we're moving on to the next book that I'm going to be reading. And hold on. The next booktuber that I want to shout out is SadieJoyful. She has 347 subscribers as of the moment of this video. She's one of the newer booktubers that I have followed recently. I don't remember who suggested her, but she's just, like, literally, she is very joyful. I love it. She is always so happy. She is always so upbeat. And it seems like her tastes are very similar to my own. Like, looking at her stuff, like, just, nope, that's not what I want. Looking at the books that she's read, she reads a lot of YA, she reads a lot of fantasy, she does book talks on certain books that I am interested to get to. She's got a 300 subscriber Q&A that she just did. For Sadie, I am going to be reading Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. She absolutely adores this series. She also adores ACOTAR. We've talked about that. We both are, like, we would both let Rysand murder us and we'd be happy about it. Don't know what that says about me as a person, but anyways, so I've been meaning to read this for forever, and I just haven't gotten around to reading it yet, so I decided that this was the perfect opportunity to read this. I'm also buddy reading it with Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe. This is about Selena, and I guess she's an assassin who is in prison, and then she gets approached by the prince, being like, I need a champion, or being like, I need a competitor to compete and be the champion for my father, the king. And so, yes, I know so many spoilers for this series. I know it's funny, I know the one big spoiler, and then I've, like, heard other spoilers, but completely forgotten most of them. This is interesting because Sarah J. Maas, obviously this isn't my first Sarah J. Maas book, but, like, it's interesting because the ACOTAR series is one of the few where I'm not mad about the fact that the love interest we meet in the first book is not the ultimate love interest, and from what I hear, it's a similar setup with this. I'm interested to see what this is, because I know this is her first book, and I know her writing style has improved to some extent. I'm just not sure, like, it's going to be interesting to see how much. I know she likes to repeat words a lot. Just in the first few chapters that I've read of this so far, I'm just like, this is reading, like, this book, you can tell that it was first hosted on Fiction Press. You can tell. Just the way that it is structured, the way it is written, the way things are repeated, because those are also very, very common things that you see in fan fiction. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are bad, because fan fiction is basically serialized, and so you're releasing, like, a chapter at a time. So you do a little bit more reminding people of things when you are doing fan fiction, because, like, you don't know. It could have been a week since they read the last chapter. It could have been 3 years since they read the last chapter. That's a self-drag, by the way. just in case anyone's wondering. From what I've seen in like the first, I think I'm on chapter 6 right now. From what I've seen in the first 6 chapters, there's a lot of that could be edited out. Like there's I think the name of the country, I think it is Adarlan. Like it was no Adarlan's assassin in like chapter 1 or chapter 2. Adarlan's assassin is, I think that's his dad. That's his dad, isn't it? It's mentioned like 4 times, and I'm just like, ugh. But I am really liking the story and I'm liking the characters, so I can overlook writing that I am slightly side-eyeing if I like the story and the characters, and I do so far. We'll see if that continues on. This is not a video where I'm like, let's read this and drag everyone's faves. But I do have a feeling that this could be a slightly, I don't know if I'm going to like this book yet, but I do want to read it because I know I've liked stuff of hers in the past. IMO, in my opinion, Catwoman Soul Stealer, you can't see it because it is off screen, but Catwoman Soul Stealer is actually, from what I've read, her best. Like, it's better than the ACOTAR series. It is much more, it's much better edited, in my opinion. However, we'll see how I feel about this series as we go.
Good morning. It is, I don't know what day it is anymore. Today is October 12th. Today is, what is my hair doing? My hair needs washing and styling because it only lasts like 2 days and then it needs to be redone. Anyways, so I am using a receipt as my bookmark because I don't know what I've done with mine. It's over there. I had an official bookmark. We are at page, I should have done these things before. I'm on chapter 34, page 200 and something. I haven't been updating because we ran out of room on the memory card, but I've got another memory card on the way, so it's up. This is crooked. So we will not have that problem again. I'm enjoying it. I'm really liking it. I think I've talked about the fact that it's kind of fanficky, like just the way that it is structured and the writing style. So I understand why it doesn't work for some people, but I am enjoying it. I like the mystery. I was surprised to find out that there is not everyone is white, because that was the thing I was led to believe, that the only white person in this series, or sorry, not the only white person, the only non-white person in this series was someone who kind of got shoehorned into diversity at the very end without anyone saying anything about it. So I'm just like, I don't know. I feel like people are like, Sarah J. Maas only writes white people, and then I find people of color in her books everywhere. Not everywhere, but like I find them in her books, especially the A Court of Thorns and Roses, because I feel like there's an entire court that's mostly people of color. Now, I don't know how good that representation is. I don't know how that plays into it, but like that's not the thing to I just kind of, huh? Like, are you just hating on her to hate on her? I see the critiques because we have a mostly white cast and like one character of color to like one, we've got the token black person basically is what we have. And like, I understand that issue, but if that's the issue, say that's the issue and don't be like, oh, she never writes anything but white people. Like that's completely different. If someone writes white people or like if someone does the representation badly, say she does it badly, but like the only critique is that I've heard is that it is only white. And that's disingenuous, I feel. But it's interesting because I want the romance to happen, but I know that there's no point in getting invested in anything in this book because Sarah J. Maas doesn't introduce you to the main man early on. And so I'm just sitting here going, I want romance, but I want the right romance. I don't want these two idiots who are they're such idiots. Oh, so dumb. And Caltaine, I could care less about Caltaine. I'm just like, what? I don't care. I don't care about this woman. She has, I'm sure her plot will be more interesting later, but she has nothing of what she is doing is anything that I care about right now. I care about Selena and her plot line and who is going around murdering these people. I have a feeling that Nehemia knows what's up because she got real quiet when Selena was describing what happened to how someone was murdered. I don't remember which one it was because I don't really care about the other competitors. Describing how they got murdered. So I did like the scene where Selena finally is just like, you know what? I'm done hiding. I'm just gonna kick this dude's butt. That was so good, and I was just like, yes. I've been waiting for that. I'm also waiting for her to like kick Kane's ass, but I know we've got to wait for that because I've still got a third of a book left. I'm filming in the daytime, so obviously that means I must have finished a book. Also, I hope you guys appreciate the fact that I've turned off the Florida AC so that you can hear me. Also, it really annoys me when I'm editing, but like, I do it for you guys first and foremost. Because I'd like to produce some sort of type of quality. I'm not sure if it actually ends up being quality, but I try. Okay, I try. Anyways, I just finished Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, and let's see, thoughts on this book. By and large, I really enjoyed it. Like, yes, it has its issues. Yes, most of the cast is white. I get why people are mad about that. However, I absolutely love Nehemia with my whole heart, and I hope only good things happen to her. Which is probably not how it's going to happen, but like all of these children, only good things should happen to them. You know what I mean? The writing is better than I thought it was going to be. It is not terrible. I would like the things people say about Sarah J. Maas, I was expecting for it to just be awful. Yes, it's a little repetitive in places. Yes, it does feel, especially at the beginning, it feels like I'm reading fanfic. Yes. But I love fanfic, so like there's a reason I go to it. So I definitely enjoyed it. I definitely thought it was an entertaining story. It kept me hooked. It had a good premise. I liked Selena as a character. I liked the two boys. Rowan had better be like god tier love interest because I like the boys that we have in this book. I know I've got to wait till book 3, but I like the boys that we have in this book. They're both idiots. And for some reason I am just drawn to idiots. I love them so much. It's funny. I'm like, at least, what was it? I said, I love Dorian. He's an idiot, but at least he's honest about it. So it's time for me to shout out another booktuber, because we finished one book, that's 2 books down. I have 4 to go. Woohoo! Why did I think 6 was a good idea? I should have stuck with 5. It's fine. One of them was short. So the next small booktuber I want to shout out is Sophia from fictionalives. I have been following Sophia since like last year because we both like Percy Jackson, and if you like Percy Jackson, I'm not even kidding. Like when I watch booktube videos, I'm literally looking at your shelves, and if I see you have Percy Jackson books, there is a chance I will subscribe. That is definitely, like, that's how I found Sophia, because she commented on one of my Percy Jackson videos, so I went and commented on and watched some of her videos, and that is how our gorgeous, lovely friendship started. She is wonderful. She's so sweet and, like, soft. I love it. Like, just listening to her talk is so soothing and relaxing, and she has such great thoughts. I just love listening. I love the way she, like, talks and dissects books. She's so good at it. She's so much better at it than I am, okay? Okay, don't yell at me, Sophia, you are. She also talks about writing a bit because she's also a writer. If you're looking for someone to go to for like the LGBT recs, she is definitely the person to follow because she has them out the wazoo. Like every other book she reads, probably more than that. So I was going through her favorites video, and one of the ones she mentioned is one I've been really, really wanting to get to, and that is Passenger by Alexandra Bracken. I really enjoyed The Darkest Mind. So when I saw that she had this on her list of favorite books, I was like, I have to read it. I have to read it. There's time travel involved. The concept, what I've been hearing about it, sounds really, really interesting. Also, Scribd has it as an audiobook, and like, I love audiobooks, and I need one. I've been without one for a couple of days because I knew I was going to be starting this soon, and so, ta-da. So, this is the one. I'm going to put this on as I go about, like, no, wait, I have to watch the 100. I'll probably start this tomorrow. Probably start it tomorrow, because I'm behind. And I need to get caught up because I have to talk about it on Tuesday. It's 2 days from now. But this is the next book that we are going to be talking about in this reading vlog. We'll see if I like it. I really, like I said, I enjoyed The Darkest Minds. It made me sad, so I have a feeling that this one will also make me sad. I also find it funny that I just finished Throne of Glass, and Alexandra Bracken is one of Sarah J. Maas's critique partners, or was for Throne of Glass. So I'm very interested to see where this goes. From what I know, I don't know. I have no idea what this book is about. When I know I like something by an author, I don't tend to look into the premises of other books. But like I said, I think there's some time travel involved. I think like more or dimension hopping or something. Someone's life has been ruined. There's a boy who's been at sea. Oh, mention of the colonies. So either we're in a fantasy world or it's the United States. A perilous journey across centuries and continents. Yeah, you got me right there. Mm-hmm. So, it's too late in the evening to hate life. So you're just gonna have to deal with the fact that my fan is on in the background because I live in Florida. Have we mentioned this? And, it gets hot real fast here. Even in October, even when it's nighttime. I have been a terrible vlogger because I am
over halfway through in Passenger, and I haven't like updated you or told you any of my thoughts. Mostly that's because haven't really like had a lot of them. There are some things that like you can tell that this is a first book because the dialogue scenes go on a little bit too long. Although she has used dialogue in a clever way to kind of give you some world building and like backstory. I just think she maybe gave you a little too much, and maybe we could have had some of that woven in other places. But I'm really liking the storyline. I like the fact that like she just gets plucked out of her average everyday life by someone who has barely even been in the 21st century and taken all the way back to 1776. So far we've had swashbuckling at sea, we've had a kidnapping, we've been, we're in World War II right now. Like, it's just so interesting and good. Like, I'm really enjoying this, and I'm enjoying the relationship between the main couple, just because it's like, it's not progressing as fast as I would like, but also it's only been like 12 hours since they've met. Actually, no, it's been more than that because they were on a whole, like, sea voyage from the Bahamas. And they had to go all the way up to New York. So, like, they actually had interactions that we didn't see, but you kind of get the hint of it through stuff that's happened. Like, I thought she did a really good job of, like, skipping over, like, all of the boring sea voyage stuff that wasn't important and giving us a glimpse of like little bits of their relationship and how it's all of them. There's a lot of complicated stuff. There's a thing that her mother has stolen that we've only just now figured out. I was worried there for a minute that the thing her mother had stolen was her. And I was like, well, that's going to make the romance complicated. But it did not, so that's good. I don't like my romance complicated like that. Like, doing it in the Mortal Instruments was enough for my lifetime. So I like how she's using history to make commentary on the way things are now and the things that we still have to work on. And I really like I like these characters. I do. Ed is a little much at times, but who isn't when you are in their head? So, like, I'm a little much in my own head sometimes, too. So there's that. But I will continue listening to this, and I will probably have more to say tomorrow. Alright, we got some old school lighting because it's Florida, and if you can't tell, it's raining outside. But I am coming on here to tell you that I finished Passenger by Alexander Bracken. Oh my gosh, guys. This book, it took a while. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, it took a minute for this book to grab me. It wasn't quite as immediate an immersion as with The Darkest Minds. Like, The Darkest Minds grabbed me right away. We had this great conflict, this great relationship. It took a minute for this to get me, and when it got me, it was because the relationship started picking up, or the romance specifically started picking up. And so, like, once we got to that point, I was like, okay, yes, I'm ready for this. Like, oh, there was angst, there was pining, and that ending, guys. You gotta warn me about stuff like that, okay? You gotta warn me! I was stressing for a hot minute there, okay? I was stressing. It's okay, there's a book 2, so things can get fixed. I almost, just like with Throne of Glass, I was, ready to jump to the next book. However, unlike with Throne of Glass, I had to exercise a little bit more self-control because the next book is literally on my phone. Like, I can get it through Scribd. And I had to go, out to my car to get Crown of Midnight if I wanted it. It's still in the car. I don't have room on my library shelf, guys. Okay, just don't judge me. Alright? It's fine. But I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. It was amazing. I had so much fun reading it. I can understand why people might not enjoy the story as much as they do with The Darkest Minds, because Darkest Minds, I think she put the world building in just a little bit better. There was a lot of info dump here. There were some places where the dialogue was a little, I was like, I don't know that I would have written it that way. It's a little cringe. Feels a little stilted and unrealistic. And part of that is because you are dealing with characters that are talking in a different pattern of speech than we're used to because they're from different eras. Like one of the main characters is from the 1700s, late 1700s specifically. It's time for me to tell you who our fourth small booktuber is. So I want to shout out Deja from Diary of a Reader. At the moment, Deja has 385 subscribers. Deja is so fun. She did daily vlogs for the Reading Rush, and her reading vlogs are just, they're a hoot. They are wild. They are so much fun to watch because she just gives you the full life experience. Like, you really feel like you're going in and living her life with her. If she's a mess that day, you see the mess. If she's having, like, it's great. And I love how real and authentic Deja is. Also, she's into Shadowhunters, and I'm into Shadowhunters, and so, like, I like watching her freak out about the same Shadowhunters things that I am freaking out about. So the book that I picked from Deja's channel is This Mortal Coil by Emily Suvada. I started this on my way home from work because I finished Passenger at work today. It's an experience, let me tell you. I'm glad there was no one else in my office. Because I was having a moment. I'm about 30 pages in. So far, what I can understand is this is like a sci-fi dystopian zombie type thing, except it's a weird zombie type thing, which is really, like, exciting. They have figured out genetic coding, and you've got a panel that is on your arm that, like, it's the gene hacking is set in, so you can change things about yourself. There are different apps that you can download, except our heroine has some sort of allergy, so she can only download the most basic apps, so she only has like 6 of them. It's very interesting. I'm curious to see how that is going to play into the rest of the plot, because you know it's going to play into the rest of the plot. So 2 years ago, this virus started, and this virus does 2 things, primarily. Is one, when it infects the host, it kind of does something to their system that in 2 weeks, like 2 weeks from the day that they get infected, they explode. And they're this giant red, gross cloud of nastiness, which makes the cover makes a lot of sense now. I didn't realize that. And then the other thing is, if you get within distance that you can smell the odor coming off of these people, it sends people into this kind of wrath state where they attack the infected person. So that is both a good and a bad thing, because if you attack them, because the only way to be immune to this virus is to eat a like a second week victim's flesh. You have to eat it, and then it tricks your body, your immune system, and you have to do it like every 2 weeks, which is kind of gross. I feel sorry for these people, but also you do what you gotta do to survive, and they gonna die anyways. That's the Slytherin in me coming out right there. Yep. We'll see how I feel about this, because one of my things that I have with zombie novels is you have immunity. And immune systems, different people's immune systems, react to different viruses different ways. Now, this probably is a genetically engineered virus, so I don't know how that might change, but I don't know that there's a single virus that at least some people are not going to have immunity to. But anyways, it is kind of a pseudo-zombie book, and you know that means Margaret is into it, because for some reason, I like zombie books. I don't know, I like them a little weird and dark and with shamblers. I just do. So, the first 30 pages has been interesting. There's a dude that calls her princess. I have a feeling we're going to have a love triangle in the second book. And you know I have a weakness for couples where the dude calls the girl princess. I am trying not to get too attached, because I have a feeling he is not going to be the main man, because I have a feeling the main man is the one that is mentioned in the blurb. It's okay. I'll probably fall for this person, because we only get 1 chapter with this other dude, and we're going to get a whole book with this main person dude. So, hello. It is I. Obviously, because this is my vlog. Oh, why am I so bad at this? Ooh, you can't see me because my camera is in front of the light. Okay, so I wanted to, like, I don't know, do more than just 1 update. So I am about that far. Got that little bit left of this Mortal Coil. I'm almost done. Like, I was having a hard time putting this down and switching over to BookTube this morning because we're at a really intense spot. And I have some feelings about stuff that just went down in the plot. Like the big thing that Kat didn't know. I have feelings about that. And I feel like I would have liked that better if the romance had not happened in this book. That's a really weird thing for me to say. Like, I'm still into it, but at the same time, I'm just like, I feel like it's weird. And I say this as someone who is planning on using that particular trope at some point in their life. Possibly some near point in their life. This is an interesting book because I have been right about nothing. Just like literally nothing have I been right about, and that has been an experience. Usually I'm right at least about a few things. Usually I'm right about a lot of the big plot things. So, ooh, I don't like how close this is, but I am liking it. I'm really liking it. I like how complex this plot is. I like how many layers it has. Like, every time you think you've got it figured out, something else is introduced into the mix, and you're like, oh, well, there's that thing that we didn't consider. So, and like the way that Emily Suvada is using the things that she has planted in the text, like there's a thing that happens, a thing that Kat does at Homestake when they're leaving, and like she plants that idea in your brain many chapters earlier, by just a small interaction that Kat has that you don't even think like, oh, that's going to be an issue. You think it's just like a little snippet of world building type stuff, and like it's not. Like, this is so well paced and well written, I feel. I'm loving it. I really, really like Cole, and the other guy that I was like, I kind of like this guy because he calls her princess. No. He not worth it. Anyways, so I'm enjoying it. I really like this. I'm glad I finally picked this up because I've been hearing it's really, really good. And so when I saw that Deja had this as one of her favorite books, I had to go for it. I went for it, yes, and I really enjoyed it. Or am really enjoying it. We'll see. Like the last, let's see, I'm on page 381 of like 424. So the last 40 pages is what's going to make or break the book. Right now, I feel like it is going to make the book, but it will be highly depend on whether or not both of these characters end up making it out of this book. It is October. It's October 24th. That's what it is. A little low energy right now because I'm starving, but I'm also going jogging soon. And I can't eat before I go jogging or bad things happen. So I'm gonna go jogging so I can eat food. That's what I was gonna do. I'm literally gonna like stick my food in the oven and go jogging. And then when I come back and stretch out, food will be done. Anyways, I'm here because I have finished this Mortal Coil. That ending, like, guys, I got to the ending, and then we got to the ending of the ending, and I'm just like, why? Why would you do that? Why would you do that to these poor kids? Like, this book wasn't enough. We've got to have a sequel. Third time. It's funny because this one, Passenger, Throne of Glass, all of them are like, I want the sequel now. Can I have it? When we got to the big confrontation, I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but when we got to the big confrontation and like the reasons that things were happening, I was like that John Mulaney skit where he's like, that's what I thought you'd say. Like, that was me. I was like, yep, your motives are exactly what I thought they were when we started realizing who you were. Like, I'm just like, although I have thoughts. We'll see where we go in the second book, because there are, like, I'm mostly okay and, like, agree with what happened in this book, but I just, you know what I just realized? That the sun sets on a diagonal from my house, so technically that window is not west. I'm sorry, I get distracted easily. Fantastic choice. Deja has great taste in books, clearly. I will say it did take me a little bit longer than I wanted to, whew, it's so hot in here. It did take me a little bit longer to get into this story, but it took me a while to get connected to the characters in this particular novel. It's not that they're not great characters, it just took me a minute to get connected to them. However, the plot was enough to keep me reading until that connection developed, and once that connection develops, I'm along for the ride no matter what. To my detriment at times. If you've been watching The 100, you know what I mean. It is time to shout out another booktuber. I know we're doing 6 in this one, and I know she's not making videos all that much anymore. I don't know the last time she actually made a video, but I still wanted to shout out to Leah from Bookish Paradise. She is currently at 440 subscribers, and I just love watching her videos. She is so sweet and kind, and she just reads such a great mix of books. She also has like great like journal flip throughs. It was really fun. She did a journal with me live one night, and I love her so much. She is so sweet and she's so wonderful, and I want her to come back. So I'm shouting her out, I guess, in hopes that if you guys go and subscribe to Talia, she will come back. And so for Talia, one of the favorites that I picked for her was The Boy in the Black Suit by Jason Reynolds. I read Long Way Down earlier this year, August, I think it was, and I enjoyed it. I had feelings about the ending, but I have to admit that, like, the ending did what he wanted it to do. Like, I appreciate what he was trying to do with the ending. I just am someone who likes, like, a little bit more... It was a little bare bones for me. It was gorgeous as a book written in verse. It just was a little bit bare bones for me. So this one is a novel that is written in prose. Prose, guys. Prose is when it looks like this, by the way. I keep hearing people call books in verse prose, and I literally, like, pop off at work every time. I'm just like, I can't. I have to go. So now I'm less in the direct sunlight because the clouds have decided that they're going to go. Talia really likes this book. She recommends it, and it's more Jason Reynolds, and I want to read more Jason Reynolds because I liked how he did his characters. Like, his character building is chef's kiss. You know? It just was, it's good. So I want to see how he does with a prose novel. And she happened to have this on her list of favorites, so I was like, obviously, I'm going to pick this one up. This is about Matt, and he is dealing with the aftermath of his mother's death. His friends are worried about him because he's been wearing a black suit to school every day, but what they don't know is that the reason he's doing that is because he's trying to make money and pay the bill. I'm not sure whether it's because his dad has been an alcoholic the entire time or his dad is spiraling after his mother's death, but he's responsible for the bills in the house, unfortunately, because that's not how things should go when you're a teenager. He's gotten a job at a funeral home, and it pays a lot more. It pays more than, like, the fast food place down the street, is what it says. And so it's about him kind of navigating this place, like dealing with his dad, maybe falling in love, because, you know, Margaret needs a little bit of that in everything she reads. She just does. So it's been a couple of days, and I have not gotten very far in this book just because it's my physical book, which means it's my bedtime book, which means it is very hard for me to stay awake. It's not the book's fault. But I am really liking it. I'm liking Matt's character. Like, everything that you see in the blurb is exactly where we start. And it's starting out, like, right after his mom has died and him kind of trying to figure out, how do I deal with the fact that she's not home? There was a really, really sad scene with him trying to figure out, how do I take care of myself? How do I do this stuff that she is so intrinsically linked to? Like, there's a cookbook that he can't even look at right now because he's so used. It's got his mom's recipes in it, and she hand wrote them, and, like, oof. But it was really funny because there's a moment where he considers fast food, and then he discovers what you have to deal with while working in fast food, and decides that no, that's not for him. And I don't blame him, because people upchucking in the middle of your store, no, thank you. I've had to deal with that. It's not fun. And I like Jason Reynolds' writing style. Hold on. This is better. I like this better. Jason Reynolds' writing style is very voicey, and I'm enjoying that. He is a typical teenage boy. There are places where I'm like, oh, somebody needs to come and teach you about toxic masculinity, son. But at the same time, it's realistic. Like, you can see the environment that he is in, even in these first, like, 50 pages or so. Do I hope that maybe we'll confront some of that? Maybe. But at the same time, if we don't, I don't feel like it is a detractor from the book. And I'm liking it. He just crashed someone's funeral. And by crashed, I mean he went and sat respectfully in the back row. And it seems like this is going to be a habit from what he's saying in his narration. So I'm very interested in, like, where this book is going. I like the fact that it is an exploration of grief and death, and the fact that the death has already happened. I'm so awful. I hate characters dying, but I like exploring how people deal with grief. We're in a different filming setup because I've cleared off the desk, and so now I can film and have my camera sitting there, and I don't have to hold it while I talk. And since this place is, like, open, I figured I'd use it. So I am about halfway through The Boy in the Black Suit. I am really enjoying it. In fact, let me read you. There's no spoilers in this or anything, but this made me laugh. So basically, he's getting picked up because he's got a job at a funeral home. So he's getting picked up by the guy who owns the funeral home in the hearse because they got to go to a funeral. And so he goes, perfect. I was officially weirder than the goth kids. Even better, I was the kid the goth kids wanted to be. And that just, it made me laugh. I like how it's dealing, like, with the different ways that he deals with, like, it's not like him just sitting there and crying. It's showing you the small things that really affect you when someone dies. The small things that you kind of, like, you can't do, and the fact that you just want everyone to treat you normally. And I don't have a lot of experience with grief because the last time I lost someone who I cared about, I was 8. It was my grandfather. And that was a really long time ago because I don't want to do the math. But I am really I'm like really liking this. It's the closest like in time thing that I have to compare it to is my dog dying. We had to put her down 4 or 5 years ago now, I think. I really like how he describes things and how he puts feelings into things. He just did a section where he was describing a bunch of the different kinds of funerals that you can have, and like that was like you still like, I mean, it wasn't more than, let me see if I can find, can you see that? Is that better? Maybe? That's better. There we go. That's the lighting setup we want. Okay, so like this is only like that much, but he gives you such a good picture of the people involved in these funerals. Okay, that's where I wanted to be. He gives you such a succinct, but not descriptive, but like evocative picture. I mean, it is descriptive, but evocative picture of the people who are doing these funerals and the people who have died. I really liked that first funeral he went to. And it's really interesting to see how Matt is finding comfort in seeing that other people are hurting like him. I don't know if he's really acknowledged that or recognized that, but it's really interesting to see how he's finding comfort in that and finding solace in the fact that, hey, I'm not the only person who has lost someone that I really, really loved. So it's been interesting to see him work through that. I really like Mr. Ray as a character. The only thing I have is like, and the way this plot is, it's not really like, it's just Matt and Mr. Ray and his friend and his dad. So there aren't a lot of female characters. But it's in a realistic way. It's not in a way that, like, I just forgot them. Like, you know there are women around and women there, because he's constantly talking about his mom. But, like, we just haven't, like, he just hasn't been around any. But I will say that I don't think this book is going to pass the Bechdel test. Not that it has to pass the Bechdel test to be a good book. I think that's a really good metric to use when you have, you know, a white dude writing. But this is telling a completely different story. I think we're going to get a little bit more female presence here in a minute from the way that we've been leading up to this funeral that this dude's about to go to. Actually, you know what? I lied. Like, there aren't any, so far there haven't been a lot of female characters who are prominent characters, but there have been a lot of women in the book, especially when you're talking about the funerals. Because he talks about, like, he pays attention to the family, and so he sees the moms, and he talks about the moms and the sisters and the, that kind of thing. So, like, it's not that there aren't women in this kid's world, it's just that right now he is spending most of his time with, like, a 60-year-old man and his dad. Guess what, guys? Are we recording? Yes, we are. Okay. We have finished The Boy in the Black Suit, and I have to say, I loved this book. Like, I really, really liked this book. This was so, like, it's a sad book because he's dealing with the grief of his mom the entire time. And he's dealing with the fact that his dad, that's where that book went to. Oh, okay, it was just hiding from me. Anyways, he's dealing with the fact that his dad is messed up and he's, like, trying to process all of this. But it was so good. And it was so, like it was really interesting how Jason Reynolds was able to deal with grief in a way that was relatable and also slightly humorous at times, but also in a way that was always respectful. Does that make sense? I loved Love, which I wanted the story behind why her name was what her name was. Like, where was that, Jason? Where was that? I sat down, I had like 100 pages to go. I sat down and I started reading this while I was doing dinner. Actually, no, I probably had about, I don't know, 50 pages to go. I was somewhere around here, or maybe around here, and this is where, like, everything starts to come together, and, like, the connection between Matt and Love and Chris and all of this, like, it was so good at pointing out all of the small ways that people can be connected and not know that they're connected, and the ways that they can end up, like, affecting each other's lives. Like, there was so much more that I wanted closure for in this book, but at the same time, like, the ending was perfect as it was. I really liked the fact that it had a little bit of a romance, and I like the fact that it showed them kind of bonding over the grief that they share, and it showed them dealing, he doesn't really start to experience and understand how he is processing and dealing with the grief and really be able to move past it until he has met someone else. And it's not that they fall in love that fixes it, it's the fact that he meets someone else who understands this experience, and they get to sit down and have a real raw conversation about grief and about death and what happens when you lose someone. And so, yeah, this was so good. Jason Reynolds is like the best at voice. Between this, Long Way Down, like he is so good at having a voice to his characters, because the voice in this book was completely different from the voice in the other book. This is one of those where like technically it does not pass the Bechdel test, but I still feel like it is feminist, if that makes sense, because it does a lot to not necessarily move past, but to examine and talk about toxic masculinity, because part of why so many of these people in this book have an issue moving past is because they're so busy burying their feelings, because that's what a man does. Does that make sense? Like, you have to be intentional about it. I don't know that he was intending to make this feminist. I know this definitely was just talking about grief and being a kid and dealing with grief. And then you had the added layer on top of that, that Matt was black. And that was another one of the things I really liked, is that it is about a black teen, but it is not about a black teen who is suffering or being oppressed because of his blackness. Yes, he runs into that. Yes, he deals with that. But so much of it was just about him trying to deal with this grief and get over this grief, because his mother dies from cancer, and obviously cancer has no color. Although there are health care things that are... Now it is time to move on to our 6th small booktuber that I am going to shout out, and I am going to be shouting out Rachel from Rachel's Reading Corner. She is currently sitting at 504 subscribers, and I love her. She is just, she's British and soft-spoken, and it's just such a delight to sit and listen to her. I feel like a lot of these people that I've been talking about in this video, I'm just like, I like listening to them because they have such nice voices, which is true. Like, I'm not wrong. Rachel likes to talk a lot about nonfiction. She reads a lot of graphic memoirs. She reads a lot of classics. If you're looking for someone to geek out about Jane Austen with, you need to talk to Rachel at Rachel's Reading Corner. She also reads a lot of feminist lit and a lot of LGBT lit. I am actually reading a book that I was going to get rid of because it is a mass market paperback fantasy that was written in... Oh, come on. 2008. Ooh, 2008. The mid-2000s. This is the kind of fantasy that you think of when you think of, like, Terry Goodkind and other male fantasy authors, which, I mean, I've been surprised by some of them. Like, I was surprised by Robert Jordan earlier in April or May because he was actually pretty decent in his representation of female characters. But that's not the book we're reading right now. I'll be reading The Way of Shadows by Brent Weeks. Rachel said she absolutely loved this book, and I was like, well, if she loves this book, then obviously it is not trash. Like, obviously it's got some decent representation when it comes to women, so I kept it. I decided I was going to give it a try. We have, in fact, started this book, so I figured I should probably update you guys since I am about halfway through. I've been listening to this as an audiobook, and it's really funny because the narrator who narrates this is also the narrator for the Gregor the Overlander series, which I've almost entirely finished. I need to finish it. I'm on the last book, and I just haven't finished it. Anyways, so it's really weird because like I'm recognizing his voice from that series. Anyways, so so far I really like the world that they set up. This is an assassin story, and so I'm enjoying the fact that it's an assassin story. The blood and the gore doesn't necessarily bother me. They just never have. But like, it does fall into that trap where, like, the female characters are kind of thought of as two ways, and you're either a Madonna or a whore, and that does bother, yeah, it's 2008, it does bother me a little bit that is, like, we haven't had, like, I think so far we've had three female characters that we really know. One is the brothel madam, the one that runs all of the brothels in the entire city, which is interesting because she is in a position of power, so I do like that, and I like the fact, like I like what they're doing with her. However, I would like a little bit more diversity in our women. We have, like, there's one that's a mom that, like, basically she's overstepping her place, and it's not like she's overstepping her place because she's being a bad parent. She's overstepping her place. She is, by the way, she is being a bad parent. But, like, he's talking about it like she's overstepping her place in the thing, like, that she's overstepping her place because her son is the lord of the house, and so she's supposed to listen to him. And like historically, a lot of moms ran their children's estates. Granted, she is a terrible mother, so she takes it, you know, she's bitter about the fact that she's married to someone she doesn't want to be married to. And then we have a girl that I'm assuming is going to be the main love interest. We've actually, I mean, there have been a couple of other female characters, but like they all seem to fit in those two different places, which is something that bothers me about a lot of early 2000s fantasy and stuff, especially stuff, also stuff from the 90s, because you can just tell it's written by a dude. It's a little bit hard to follow, I feel, even though I'm halfway through. Like, there's a whole bunch of political machinations that I'm not entirely sure what's going, like, I have a slight idea of what's going on, but, like, it's not a bad book. I'm not wanting to put it down. I am intrigued by the plot. Kylar deserves better than what's happening to him right now. Someone dog-eared this page. This was not my book original. Durzo Blint can, like, jump off a cliff. I'm sorry. Like, I understand you're an assassin and you're trying to train yourself, but you can jump off a cliff. He's awful. He's good at his job, but he's still awful. There's some stuff that's been raised about Kylar's talent or his magic, which I'm really interested to see how that resolves, because you know it's going to resolve at some point. And there's this funny, like, there's just been this funny exchange between, like, a prophet, I guess, and, like, one of his friends, which is really cute. So I'm enjoying the world building, and I'm enjoying the characters. They're just, like, a lot of dudes, and not a lot of women being, like, treated properly and well, and all of that, like... Alright, so it is time to wrap this up, and I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet because this has been a long vlog as it is. I will remind you, all the booktubers that I talked about today are linked in the description box. Make sure that you go and check them out and give them some love, look at some of their videos, tell them I sent you, you know, all of that good stuff. So the first book I finished was Saddle Club, book 1. Horse Crazy? Yeah, Horse Crazy by Bonnie Bryant. I enjoyed this. It was a nice trip down a memory lane. I feel like I still haven't decided whether or not I actually ever read this particular book. Like, I remember parts of it, like one specific part, but that's the only thing in this that I remember, and the rest of it I'm like, no memory of this here. So I guess, I don't know, maybe I didn't read, but it was a nice walk down memory lane. I loved these girls at one point in my life, and I was obsessed with this series. Almost everything I know about horses comes from this series. I ended up giving this 3 stars. It says it is for ages 9 to 12. I felt like this was maybe more like I don't know, like maybe 8 to 10. I felt like this is a lot younger than I was reading when I was 9 or 12. The second book that I finished was Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I gave this 4 stars. I was pleasantly surprised by the fact that, like, while it was not the most inclusive book I have ever read, it also was not terrible. Like, it was pretty standard YA fantasy for the time that it was written. I enjoyed Selena. I enjoyed her story and what she was going through. I liked how realistically it portrayed her having to train and get back to strength. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, she starts training and everything is so easy. I also liked the magic system that we're kind of getting more into. The next one that I finished was Passenger by Alexander Bracken. This I gave 4 stars. I was just like sitting there at the end of this book. I just remember being sitting there at the end of the book, this book going, what's just happened? That can't have just happened. Wait, there's a second book. Like, my entire experience with that ending just, like, scarred me, but also left me desperate for the next book. So I can't wait to finish this series in 2020, or I guess it's this year by the time you're seeing this video. I liked kind of the time travel aspect of it. I liked how they worked that in, and I liked the thought process behind the time travel and, like, the rules behind it. I really liked the rules that they were unique rules to, at least to me. Maybe I just haven't read enough time travel fiction. Maybe I should, you know, do more than just watch Doctor Who. But I really liked the rules that they had set up in here, and I thought that was intriguing and interesting. The next one that I finished was This Mortal Coil by Emily Suvada. I thought, like, this was run-of-the-mill dystopian zombie stuff, but I still, like, I loved it. I thought it was really well told. I love me a good dystopian novel. I have not gotten tired of the trend. I enjoy it. I keep looking for more that I will actually like. The twist at the end of this book, just what? I can't even, like, I still don't know how I feel about the ending of this book. But I still gave it, I did give it 4 stars, so I enjoyed it, and I'm going to look into the next one, and I didn't realize it, but, like, it's a trilogy, so the 3rd book comes out next year. I'm actually intrigued to see what that next book is. The 5th book that I finished was The Boy in the Black Suit by Jason Reynolds. Jason Reynolds, so far, has been a hit with me as an author. I gave this 5 stars. It was just such a good exploration of grief. It was such a wonderful character study of the people that are in this novel. You really get to sit in Matt's head and walk through how he's processing his mom's death. You get to sit there and spend a time with it, but it's still not like a downer of a book. There is a message of hope behind everything that is going on in this novel, and you don't necessarily, you don't see to the end of it with everyone who we see, but you still kind of have an idea of the fact that yes, they're going to get past this, and they're going to move on at some point. I really, really enjoyed this. I literally went and I put this on my Christmas wish list because I liked it that much, and I cannot wait to pick up more Jason Reynolds and read more of his stuff. And then finally, we read The Way of Shadows by Brent Weeks. This was an interesting, intriguing fantasy world. I liked kind of the political intrigue that they had going on. I thought it was very realistic. However, I have read better, more inclusive adult fantasy than this, written earlier than this. Now there's promise perhaps in the rest of this trilogy for a better role for these women, but I still just really relies a lot on the whole Madonna whore dichotomy complex thing that's going on in a lot of fantasy that was written around this time, and I just think there are things that could have been handled better. So I only gave this 3 stars. However, I am going to continue on with the series. It really leaves you off in a place where you can't not continue on with the series, and there wasn't anything that was absolutely horrendous. I mean, there was a lot of horrendous stuff in here, but there wasn't anything that was an absolute ridiculous oversight of the authors. I didn't feel nothing that I felt like they were actually actively trying to do harm or perpetuating harm. Okay, so that was the first installment in my Can We Trust Small Booktubers series, maybe? I don't know. I'm thinking I might do videos like this quarterly where I find other small booktubers that I am following and I read their books. Now, I think my definition of a small booktuber probably is a little bit higher in sub count than most people's definition, so you might see some people that you recognize. I'm just basically going to start working, I started with everyone who had under 500 subs, and I'm just going to keep working my way up from there as I go. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up so I know to make more videos like this. If you are new to my channel and you like videos about books and writing, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That's it for now, my friends. Happy reading, and I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye!